Hey everyone, welcome back. Boozor here. So in today's video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So grab your popcorn, have a seat. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but I wanted to do a dive into my take on the best fusions of all time. So I wanted to rank them the best I could to my ability, based on my experience, but also through the lens of all types of players. So I'm basically looking at it as a general purpose champion through the eyes of a early game, mid game, late game, end game player. I know certain champions will be better in certain areas, but I'm looking at it as a whole package in all areas for all types of players. Okay, so with that said, we could jump into it. It's going to be a bit of a longer video, but I hope it's a little bit informative. Maybe you guys can pick up some stuff that you guys didn't know before, or you guys can have at least my opinion on some of these champions. So we'll just jump right into it. So I made this. So this is my tier list. I know I don't like to call it a tier list, but this is my general ranking. Um, like the left hand side grading, I want to say like it's kind of, I mean, it's super subjective, and it doesn't really mean that a champion in like C tier is that much better than F tier. It's just kind of how I see them. Like this tier is just slightly better, and then this tier is just slightly better, but they're all, not like that far apart. And I tried to rank them in general order of how I feel how good they are, and I can go over my philosophy. So basically, I'm seeing general purpose for most progression champions. You're looking for some kind of support, strong support, or some kind of niche special role that they have. Uh, Maybe it's for clan boss, or maybe they have a special kit that's unique. So those would rank a little bit higher than champions that are more generic or harder to use. Yeah, as for general, for general players. So yeah, we'll just dive into it. We'll start with Pixneal. So Pixneal's been like talked about since like forever. She's been reworked. She has some weird like freeze. Like she's not a damage dealer, she's a support character. Like so she has a freeze. She takes a ton of bucks, which is awful for any new player. She's in the high elf faction, which is like stacked, so she's not going to get a lot of play time. um yeah, she has some buffs going on against when enemies are frozen. uh I mean, Perfect Veil and A1. It's just, yeah, this Champions kit just doesn't make much sense, and she's just really expensive. And she was part of, I remember she was done in in December fusion month, and she was not easy to get. She was a traditional fusion, so it just wasn't a great champion, and she's kind of regarded as the worst, and I kind of agree. I just never found any use for her at all. I do have her. So the next champion on the list is Elagaius. This guy, I guess his usage is he has this revive on death ability where he basically can't die on one hit. So this I think is useful against in his faction wars against the final boss. So he kind of can bait the final boss into one-shotting him and then keeping him alive, and then you can kind of keep him alive in other ways. So he kind of soaks up one kill, and then you can revive him. So if you need to 3-star faction wars, this ability is really strong. He also has a block. I think he has a yeah, he has a cooldown. Sorry, he has a cooldown. Puts the enemy skill on cooldown move, which is useful for like some Doom towers, maybe the waves. But honestly, this guy is just so bad. You just never use him anywhere. He has some wave control, but it's just not very good. I've used him personally in faction wars myself just to get through the boss, but also because my roster was so thin at the time. Um, so the next one I have is Gerptuk. Gerptuk. Wait, he's a Olgrin. So Gurptuk, he's always used in these damage videos, but you never see him in actual teams. Um, just because, I mean, his key move is this block bust move. So you can actually use him for Hydra for block bust. So he's actually not super terrible. But the rest of his kit just doesn't really make. There's no real place to really put this guy. He inflicts damage on yourself to boost damage, and like it, it's just not. It's just not something that's used super often. Personally, I've used him only for his block bust ability, and I think like that might be good enough. But honestly, it's just very low usage for this guy. So I just put him in the F tier. So the next one would be Bergumkar, which this was the champion, one of the first champions when I started the game. And I was like, wow, Raid Shadow Legends, you have some very strange looking champions. Anyways, this guy has a weird AoE strip ability. Wait, hold on. Remove all provokes. Place plus shield. So attacks all enemy, remove one random buff. So he has some weird half strip AoE ability, which was like kind of important for like if you don't have like a Cirrus or something when you're starting out. And he was kind of like brought on before Doom Tower. So I know some people were like kind of pumping him up, saying that he could have been useful for Doom Tower content. Like his provoke had some usage, but honestly, it's just he's just not very good. He's just never found a place anywhere, and he's just not very good. Okay, and let's see. So routing out the bottom category, another Ogren, Dracul. He's actually pretty good. Like I mean, he's decent for a legendary in this faction. Like there's just not too many legendaries, but like would you really invest all the books into this guy? He has increased attack, increased defense, block damage, so it's kind of like a interesting mix of moves which can kind of save your team. He's got good health and stuff, places a big shield, has some heals, his A1 can stun, so he's like definitely top tier in this category. He's definitely a bit better than the rest, but you're just not going to use him in much content. You might use him as some kind of support in the early game, just because he does offer attack up and then defense up, and does offer a block damage. But I mean, you're just not going to use him anywhere. Even Faction Wars, he's usable. He's usable, but like you have like really good champions that are not legendaries in this faction. Like you have like Maneater, Grush. You have a Eurogrim, Ugo. Like you just have really good epics. You don't really need to use this guy. Okay, so moving on. Harvest Jack. So Harvest Jack. He has insane base HP. One of the best in the game. He has a weird buff steal, not reliable. And then he has like kind of like control AoEs, but none of them are really reliable. So he can put some debuffs, put lots of debuffs, but they're like not super reliable. And yeah, it's the only usage I've ever seen this guy in is like put him in a big shield set for arena, and maybe faction wars. So I just don't see this guy being used like that much or ever, and definitely been power crept in terms of like his CC. There's better CC champions nowadays, so. But like when you're looking at like the transition from like bottom tier to the next tier, it's like they're kind of the same. Like you can also like lump all of these in the same almost. So don't look at the sidebar too too closely, I guess. Okay, so next one, Rorik. So Rorik, Barbarian, he's more like a hitter, right? He's like a damage dealer, but mostly for bosses and single target. So very specific damage dealer. He does hit hard. So this move, ignore 50% defense. That's a hard hitting hit. He has bonus damage against bosses. He is used in some clan boss attack as the main DPS, so he does deal quite a bit of damage. Yeah, I mean, he's one-dimensional character. Do I see him used? He was impressive when I've seen him used in Clan Boss. He's probably not going to be used too often in progression. Even if you pull him early, he's not going to be your main damage dealer most likely, just because you won't have gear to gear him out. So honestly, Rorik could be like in the bottom category, maybe behind Dragul. Just because I almost favor Dragul's support kit a little bit more than this guy's damage kit, but he does hit hard. Next one I thought was Cillian. Cillian got a buff recently. So Cillian, he actually hits really hard. He has block active skills, which is a pretty rare debuff, but I don't know how useful it is sometimes. And for his kit, like it feels like he just wants to one-shot people, but so it's like, okay, well, you're gonna apply block active skills, but you want to one-shot them with this skill. 4-turn cooldown, so not the best cooldown. He has a stun, attack one enemy though, so it's not the best. And his passive's kind of cool, a little bit random, but I mean it's just good value. So I think the buff for him was good. Definitely made him less bad. So I think he snuck into this bottom tier, but he's not going to have too much usage. He's just a damage dealer. But I kind of like that he has this kind of special block active skill AoE, and both his moves hit really hard. So a little bit more useful than Rorik for sure as a general purpose damage dealer. All right, so next one is Marinix. Marinix is a dark elf. I have her somewhere. Look at all these legendaries. Look at all these legendaries in this faction. It's ridiculous. Marinix, so she has a kind of special skill where it's like decreased defense with Hex together on one skill, 3-turn cooldown, really solid. Like this is a solid move. The problem with her, in my opinion, is that she's so dang squishy. It's hard to put her and build her up full damage. And she also doesn't have like insane attack stat. Like it's good, but it's not like insane. Like I would put any damage dealer at like 1550 and above. But 1550 in attack. She's close, but I mean, and both her skills hit hard. I don't see why she doesn't get too much use. It's maybe because her faction is so strong, but I don't see her get used too often. The Hex debuff is really important for Hydra, but her base HP probably holds her back because she is pretty squishy. Yeah, she's kind of like, you can kind of use her in an arena nuker too, like if you're starting out. 2 AoEs, right? So AoE here, and she has increased damage if they're under Hex. So she's decent damage dealer, but she doesn't get used too much, mainly because she has low base stats. I mean, she can't survive with this in Hydra. It's hard in higher Hydras for sure. Arena, like she would need a pretty strong support team to keep her alive. So yeah, kind of one-dimensional, but she does have this really strong move, which makes her a little bit better than the other champions on the list below her, in my opinion. Our next one, another damage dealer. We have Shadowkin, part of the old last year fusion, Karato, Yumiko's partner. He hits really good. Good base attack. And then he has some CC stun, attack all enemies, block active skill, similar to Cillian on a 4-turn. And yeah, he ignores, his passive is pretty unique. Can ignore some masteries, and which is kind of cool. I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool. Generally, like personally, I use him for faction wars as a damage dealer. He hits good. Yeah, he hits good. Although still kind of general purpose. So I think I would put like Karato, Cillian, Rorik, Marinix, all kind of in the same category. Like it's hard to rank them which one is better. They all have limited usage. all have limited capability kind of as a damage dealer. So I kind of just lumped them all together here. So our first kind of like support type champion I have, High Elf. Oops. Lonathril. Lonathril. So Lonathril, when the fusion came out, it was not very popular. He has good base HP, like he has good base stats, no complaints. But his kit is very underwhelming. Yeah, very underwhelming kit. So he has like destroy max HP. It's not super useful. Good for like Scarab, I guess. But yeah, like Scarab is not necessarily like you don't really need this guy for Scarab. Like, you know what I mean? He places a big shield equal to his HP, which is good. It's on a 3 turn. What else did he do? He attacks all and then places a big shield. Yeah, so he has some kind of support. Attacks all, places a big shield, and then he has an ally attack, but it's like a weaker ally attack. So it's like it's it's not super good. It's like okay. It has a shield, so he has like support, but then yeah, I don't know. He's just not that great. But I could see how he can be useful for like just general progression through dungeons, and even if you have like a off-tune speed climb boss team, he can keep your team alive while pumping up some damage for you. So it's he's definitely not going to be like the worst legendary, and he might be useful for more early mid-game accounts just to help out with their survivability as well as giving you some extra damage. But I mean, there's going to be epics that are better than this guy for sure, so it's definitely not going to be highly sought after. Our next one is Opardin. So Opardin has kind of an interesting kit. He has like turn meter stuff, and then he's basically like a healer for this class. So he has the heals, attacks all enemy, heals them about a little bit, places continuous heals on them. So it's kind of good for like just dungeon like wave sustainability. He has like a half cleanse, weird cleanse move here, while providing some continuous heals on your team. And then he has like a passive that boosts turn meter based on continuous heal. It's kind of weird, but honestly, he's actually a decent healer. He can help you in faction wars, and you kind of don't need to book him. Like it's like books don't really, his passive works like 4 turn cooldowns. It's fine. The problem is he's in Barbarians where you get Syl, which is like one of the best champions, like support champions. So you don't really see this guy get played too much. Like even in faction wars, you won't see him get played. But I mean, if you pick him up as your first legendary, he's definitely going to help you a lot. Like so early mid game, he's still going to fall off pretty hard. But as a support champion, he does his role pretty good, I think. So after Opardin, I actually put the brand new fusion here, Oella. So I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this video until Oella came into the game because I want to see her base stats. Nothing wrong with her base stats. Her base stats are very good. Good, like incredible, like very good base speed, good HP. It's just her kit. I'm not a big fan of her kit, and even just watching some of the playtest on her is just not very good. And I fail to see where she's going to be helpful. So early game, you don't care about res as an early game player. It's just not, you just don't have the capacity in your gear to care about boosting and building for resistance. So this move just not going to help you. Turn meter fill, sure, good, but yeah. And then one attack one enemy, speed down 100%. Yeah, that's good, but Stag Knight is an epic. He hits twice, which is good for Fire Knight, and he has a 75% chance of landing it. That's pretty good for an epic, right? And then her heal is not based on her HP. It's decent, 30%. It could be like 10k on like a nuker. Could be 15k on a support champion. It's a good size heal. increased duration of buffs. So, could be good for maybe some clan boss or. But honestly, like, she doesn't deal damage. She's a support champion with a move that is tailored for late game, for like Iron Twins content. But she is an option there. Is she the best option? I don't know. I'm not sure. She's an option, but and this move is basically like eclipsed by Godseeker and Eerie, which is an epic. Yeah, she's not a healer. She can't sustain a team with just this heal or this passive, which is like similar to Jarag's passive, another epic. Um, and this move is more for end game players that can kind of mix in resistance. I could see a mid game player maybe needing this as an option for Iron Twins, maybe needing this for Hydra, maybe when their gear is not capable of hitting the numbers. But she's not bringing much to either of those fights. Speed down is very good for Iron Twins, so she's catered for that dungeon. So, but Iron Twins is more like an end game dungeon, right? I don't know. It's just really weird. But yeah, I could see the uniqueness of it being good maybe in the future. So that's why I'm gonna put her here. So next one is Nari the Lucky. Nari. When this champion first came out, I was like, oh, he's kind of cool. Like defense base, good defense, really strong defense stat. And he has like a very unique kit. Decreased accuracy, decreased res. 100% chance. It's one of the few, and maybe the only champion to have this combination. So you basically just really weaken the enemy. Probably for PvE content, so like Hydras and stuff. You can definitely slot this guy in for Hydra. Give him like a provoke set or something. But the thing is, or not provoke set, sorry. Provoke set, why not? He has double AoEs here, but the thing is, Kit also has some kind of provoke. His AoE has a provoke on it, 100% chance. I guess like this guy is good for Hydra. I just don't see him around very often, but he's not going to bring too much. Like he can steal stuff, steal buffs, which is good for Hydra. Steal buff here with his passive. He has a good kind of really neutralizing AoE skill. And a provoke, really good for Hydra. But generally he's not used anywhere. I've never seen him used anywhere. But I thought he was actually going to be not bad. So he's definitely an option for Hydra, but and his kit is good. I think his kit is good. Makes sense. But he's just not used very often. And he's good base stats too. So definitely someone you guys should look into if you guys have him. He was a fusion, right? So the next one got buffed recently, or not recently, but he did get a buff into relevance. Skull Lord, a really cool looking champion. It's one of the highest base HPs, one of the highest base overall stats in the game. Super high speed, super high total stats, super high resistance. I just realized that. Sorry, I just realized that my thing is covering. Sorry. Really good base stats. One of the best overall base stats. His move, he has like some weird, quote, like multi hit move. He has provoke, strengthen, which is good against the cleansing head. So he's really strong against Hydra, and then he can place a single buff on himself, which is good for mischief tanking. So he has an AoE decreased attack. Again, really good for Hydra. So in general, for a late game player, you can build him a couple ways. You can build him as a mischief tank. You can build him to provoke. Mid game player, you can just put this guy in a shield set, and you just stick him in arena. He just does a lot. He's just gonna do a lot of stuff. You can actually use the provoke in a couple of ways. In various places. I mean, you're not gonna use him too many places, but he does have the ability to cheese faction wars as well. So he could help mid-game players like 3-star the final stage, for example. Like if you pair him with the Skullsworn, the rare, he's really good against the Scarab boss because his passive just chunks his max HP off. So He's actually good in a lot of places, and his base stats really help him out. Like you can find a place to use him. So I really like Skull Lore here. And another lizard to round out this tier, Razin. So it might be surprising that Razin is down here because Razin's always touted as one of the best, I guess, clan boss back in the day. And especially since he's a free fusion that's basically permanent. The problem is with Razin is that he kind of falls off in most areas. He's not super good anywhere. Fire Knight, he's okay with the triple hit. He's good in Clan Boss, obviously, with the decrease attack and weaken, single target. But his AoE turn meter drop, it's a 6-turn move. It's just really bad. His base speed is really bad. He hits pretty hard for a defense-based champion, so that's why he's still included in arena and stuff. Sorry, in Clan Boss. But I find his overall general utility lacking. Even when I was struggling, even when I was starting out in like early mid game and I fused him, he obviously was very helpful in Clan Boss, but in general dungeon usage, he just wasn't much help. So that's why he's kind of here. He's like a damage dealer, but he's a good damage dealer, and he has a good move, which is the decrease defense and weaken. But that's kind of all he is. So moving on, we're going into the average, more like the average tier. These champions are kind of like you generally have uses for them. You don't have to look too hard. They fit into most teams, but they have some obviously flaws. So the one that kind of snuck in for me was Ruel. So Ruel hits super hard. One of the hardest hex hitters. He's a setup. He needs a setup, and he's gotten better lately with all these more hex champions being introduced in the game. He's gotten better. So when he was introduced, there was like no one. He was supposed to set up with Thea, the Tomb Angel, but that didn't really happen. It's more just for show. He has really high base attack. His HP is very bad, so you have to set him up. But he's capable of doing a ton of damage. So I really like him in this role. But you do have to find a way to use him. So I think he sneaks into this category though, because he can actually self kind of manage himself, because he places all enemies for hex, and then he can do the nuke. So he does have his own setup, which is like, it's good. It makes his kit more usable. But obviously, like a 2-turn setup, it's not going to be super easy. So he's not going to be a super high generalist, but he's not bad. Our next one is some kind of like a similar thought process. Brackus, decent champion, hits decent, not super hard hitter, hits decent. Has with accuracy, he can land fears. He can place weaken. He has like a built-in leech, and he has a built-in revive. And then yeah, so I mean, I used him quite a bit in arena where he can basically pop back up and kind of like a go second nuker where you can like snipe somebody when he comes back alive. But as a generalist, he's not super good. Just because in dungeons and stuff, he's not going to be super useful against waves, but he does offer a very unique kit, and he is very useful. So yeah, so I would think putting him up there in the average category makes sense. The next one we have the leprechaun. Sorry, I forgot his name. Shamrock. Sorry, leprechaun. Yeah. Anyways, good base stats, good base speed, very fast. He offers a bunch of buffs for your team. Increase defense, increase speed, crit rate, increase, or revive on death, continuous heal. And then he has decreased speed on the enemy and turn meter fill, and A1 steal. So this champion wasn't very good, wasn't used very often, and then Hydra came along. And then suddenly people started noticing that this guy has a very unique kit. the increased speed became very important for Hydra, especially. Increased defense also very important. So these two together, actually, not many champions can do. He also offers turn meter boost as well as decreased speed, which is also very important for Hydra. So from a Hydra perspective, this guy brings a lot. He brings a lot. Good base stats, good base speed. Even the A1 steal is good against Hydras that ended up landing stuff. So his general utility in Hydra is very high. Faction War is very high. General progression, I would say very high. Just because increased speed, crit rate also helps against for early mid game players. Increased defense, very helpful. Revival and death, also very helpful. And also a heal. I mean, this guy brings a lot. So I think any stage player actually benefits from this guy. He's not super good in arena. He's not going to be used in arena, but in general PvE progression, he's very strong. Clan boss, not so much, but any dungeon wave or obviously faction wars, Hydra, he will shine. So, so a similar champion to Shamrock that also increased in value is Kantra. Kantra is a very, very cool champion, I feel. She has a bit of randomness. So instead of having all those buffs that Shamrock has, she places debuffs and a bit of randomness. So AoE attack 3 times, she can land up to 3 of these. All of these are good, except for maybe heal reduction. But all of these are very cool. Her A1 is a steal, similar to Shamrock. And her passive makes her incredibly tanky. So she heals, she receives less damage, she decreases accuracy. She has a built-in provoke, 75%, on enemies that have 5 or more debuffs. So she basically helps herself try to land the provoke. So this is very strong in Hydra, where you have 6-member team landing debuffs, and then she has a 75% chance of landing provoke on the head of decay. So very, very strong, and it's just a passive. Very strong for Hydra. General purpose, she can be a tank for you. She's going to be very strong in faction wars. She's going to be very strong in general progress. Is she as good as like Syl? No, obviously. Is she as good support-wise as some other supports? No, not really. So she still kind of ends up in the average category, just because her kit is a little bit limited because she cannot control. She has no real control in her kit. Like similar to whereas Shamrock does have some control. So both these champions are probably in the same. I would maybe put Shamrock ahead of Kantra. Yeah, huge defense, huge base defense. So that's pretty cool. I mean, she's a good champion. If you guys have her, definitely give her a good playthrough, especially in Hydra. I played her all the way up to Nightmare. Next champion we have is Freela, Witch Arm. So she was one of the early ally attack champions. This is a weird move that kind of messes up your clan boss with the shield buff. A1 stun, one attack, single target stun, and then the ally attack. So she, not a full team ally attack, but 3 members of your team on a 3-turn cooldown. So, one of the first early ones. But what makes her kit really good is this team buff. So she has a team buff, increased attack, increased crit, and an attack. So she attacks with this, and then you can go in with the ally attack. So she's actually really good as a general damage booster for your team. Very good in clan boss, even though she has this weird 8-1 that might mess things up. But very good in clan boss, very good in faction wars, very good just general purpose. Not that good in arena, but yeah. So I know some champions now, they have ally attacks with built-in buffs with them. They don't have attack up, buffs, but they have other buffs like crit damage or something. So, she's kind of been power crept a bit by better new champions, but she's one of the older fusions, and I think she's still quite good, still quite relevant, still quite useful. Okay, moving on. Our next champion, Foley. Foley. I use him as my main nuker on my other account. I like his block revive. So he has an AoE, 4-turn block revive. It hits okay. Not top tier, but still better than average. Um, Obviously, you can't make this move too insane because it just AoE block revives. Really, really strong move. Um, and then he has like multi-hit with Leech, and then he has defense down. So he actually has some play in like Clan Boss where you can place Leech and do defense down and do damage. So he actually has some play in Clan Boss. So you can build him with accuracy. Um, his base attack's not super high, which kind of hurts him a bit too. Makes this skill like if his base attack was 1576 and he had this multiplier on his Sealed Fate AoE move, I think he would be a good damage dealer. Like more widely used, especially in arena. But as it is, his stats not high enough, and this move is not hitting hard enough. So even though it block revives, he has a pretty cool passive where it makes him immune to stun, freeze, sleep, and provoke, which is really good in arena. But it's a good and bad thing where it boosts his turn meter so he can cut in and kill you, or you can make him cut in and then he misses all his buffs and then nothing happens. So it's hit or miss, but it is unique. It makes him a pretty cool defensive nuker, especially in the mid-tier arenas. So he's a little bit harder to deal with. So yeah, I think he's a good champion. He has some use, more uses than most damage dealers. All right, moving on. So another damage dealer we got on the list here. I got him about average. He's one of the first nukers that I actually picked up on my first account. Where is he? Oh yeah, shoot. He's not a high elf, he's a Sacred Order. Okay, Sacred Order, Astralon. So Astralon is like a hybrid DP damage dealer. So you can build him with. He's clearly has damage. 16, 19 attack, good damage, and then extra crit damage here. So you can build him full attack. He hits good. His single target hits really hard. Ignores a bunch of defensive buffs, and then he has a chance to revive if he kills someone. But I think his key move here is his AoE stun. So he has a good damage AoE that full stuns, and it revealed champions. So Duchess type teams or whatever. So building him with accuracy kind of sucks, but it makes him more usable in dungeons, for example, not just as a pure damage dealer. So he can help you control waves. Yeah, he can help you control waves. He can help you revive someone, which is actually pretty important sometimes. He has a defense down on his A1. His passive is a bit weird. It's more like for arena turn meter stuff. Makes him kind of cut in at weird times. So have to be aware of that, but it can be a good or bad thing. But he's kind of a damage dealer that has some utility. You can choose to build him with accuracy so he can land stuns. 100% by the way, which is really, really strong. I've seen him used in Spider as the stunner to stun the spiderling, so you can have time to kill the spider with the HP burns. He's very strong for his faction. AoE damage. Yeah, he's just cool champ. Hits hard. Moving on, we're going to support champions, so near the higher end of average. Molly. I'm a big fan of Molly. She brings turn meter boost with her passive. Very unique passive where she get hit and your whole team gets turn meter boost, which is kind of cool. Allows some cool arena teams where she can run into Hegemon and the Hegemon just boosts your team and then you can cut in. She has a revive, which is really strong. So 4-turn revive with the block damage and then 50% turn meter. And And her key move is her AoE provoke. So no touch, so no weak hits. She can provoke through Poison Cloud for Hydra against cleansing ahead, and has a chance to two turn. So that's one of the rare provokes where it can two turn. Really strong. Her A1 is not that important, but yeah, her key move is this move, and her passive is actually really good, and she packs a revive. So overall, I mean, she's gonna be good in all wave content. You know, Doom Tower, dungeons, arena, Hydra. She's good everywhere. But outside of that, she doesn't bring any damage. She doesn't bring like healing or buffs. So not the total package, but very strong champion. I'm a big fan. So next one we have the High Shield, Sigmund. So this guy, he might be like one of the he might be one of the fusions that people missed the most, because to get this guy we had to fuse Demitha, and I think when Demitha came out, people were like, "I'm keeping Demitha. This guy can take a seat." That's what I did. I don't regret it at all because Demitha is like insane. So, the thing is, this guy is super good. Like his kit is good. It's just kind of boring, but it's a solid kit. He has solid base stats, and he has a good kit. So his his A1 remove shields, not a big thing, and a chance to remove a buff, not a big thing, kind of nice. He has an AoE provoke, nice. AoE provoke, AoE decrease attack. That's so good for like just general waves. So good for Hydra. Good for just good for general wave stuff. Very good for progression. And then he has a team buff, shields, full team. And it's based on his max HP, which is good, and he has a strengthen on a 3-turn. Very good, very solid, very solid. And his passive is just what is it? Decrease. Yeah, so it's a nothing passive, but yeah. But his moves are good. 3-turn cooldowns on both. So he has a team buff, team protection, and then team AoE control. Very good, but just a little bit boring. He plays everywhere. He can play everywhere, and even for Hydra now, he's actually has a chance to shine. So late game, he has a chance to shine. Mid game, he's gonna carry you easy carry. And yeah, he can fit into your early mid game clan boss, any dungeons. Yeah, just a really solid champion. So next one we have, similar to Sigmund, is Versolf. Again, very good champion. Good HP, good base stats. He's HP based. He hits hard. He's a good hitter. The thing is, his kit is boring. A1, chance to provoke, places a shield on himself. That's good. That's a good move. AoE, next move, A2, AoE 3-turn cooldown. Attacks everyone. Has a chance to extra hit if there are certain debuffs on. And then it places leech, AoE leech. So AoE leech, chance to double hit. This hit hard. This is a hard hitting skill. Very good. Leech is good. Clan boss viable. Hydra viable. All wave viable. Double hit. Arena viable now, right? And then his this is probably like his key move that kind of makes him a bit better, more viable than Sigmund, is that he has a defense up, ally protection, 3-turn cooldown. Perfect. Clan boss, perfect. This helps you go from brutal to nightmare to ultra nightmare in the mid game. Perfect. Great champ. Great move, great kit. So he's good. You can play him in arena. You can play him in waves. You can play him in Hydra. He has provoke. You can play him clan boss. And his passive is a chance to provoke, just passively, no cooldown. Very good. Good base stats. You just don't see him played anywhere. He's boring. He's a boring champ, but he's good. I will say in Faction Wars he sucks. I had to use him in Faction Wars. He sucks because versus the 21 versus level 21, this A1 he boosts the Valkyries on wave 2. So because he always places a shield, and all his and this move places buffs. It's just useless, and also it's stealable by the boss, which is really bad. So you don't place this. So you have to wait for this move, which is an AOE, which the Valks love, right? Because when they have the shields, they just come in and wreck you. So yeah, he kind of sucks in Faction Wars, just because of the Valk wave. All right, so moving on. And our last champion in the average category. What is it? Sacred Order. Santa Claus. So Sir Nick. Super old fusion. Was OP when he first came out. But now definitely power crept. People are like calling for buffs and stuff. It's just ridiculous. But A1, chance to freeze. It's good. Solid. A2, big hit, big shield. Based on damage. Big hitter, yeah, that's a big hit. And then he has an unkillable, 4-turn unkillable. So this move is really strong. His A1's really strong. He hits hard and he enables some clan boss teams, unkillable clan boss teams. So this move basically opens up like Spider a bit better. It opens out Spider a bit better. Spider, which is one of the hardest like mid-game dungeons. So as an early game champion, mid-game champion, this guy's a hard carry. Hard carry. He hits hard so he can smack an arena. He protects your team because this thing can smack. And this will carry over into late game for like an unkillable team. The problem with this, he needs good stats to hit hard. So he's not a guarantee on this move. So you cannot use him perfectly like as your first champion, which kind of sucks. In the end, he's a damage dealer, so you need him to deal damage. And then he has late game viability with this clan boss ability, and it's obviously still very good, like in arena or dungeon settings. But yeah, he's not as good as he was before. Great base stats, but he's still very viable and a very good champion still. Alright guys, so moving on, we're in the above average good category. These champions are very good. They're good in many areas, or they're very, very special kits. So we'll start off with the newly buffed Vlad. He's newly buffed. So to me, he's a debuffer. He places some good debuffs. He has Leech. And he has this block, defense down, and then block active skills. It's on a 3-turn cooldown now. So both his AoEs are on 3-turn cooldowns. He hits okay, he's decent, but to me he's a debuffer. He provides some sustainability to your dungeon crawling teams. He's playable in, obviously Faction Wars. He's in a very stacked faction though, but I mean he's very helpful there. You don't even need to book him, I think. But obviously as a debuffer you want to book him. Defense down, very good. His faction I think is lacking defense down. Undead Hordes. And his A1 max HP destroy, which is not super important. But I think after his current buff with the 2-3 turn cooldown moves, very solid. Very solid now. His passive gives him revive on death, I think, when he kills an enemy. So it's not super relevant, more like arena move, but maybe Vlad goes down a little bit, but I think he's actually quite strong now. Moving on, our next champion is Morrigan. I actually quite like this champion. She's kind of compared to Lysandra, but she's more like High Katoon. She's more like High Katoon. So attack one enemy, decrease speed 50%. I mean, you see where this is different from Oella, which is 100%. So Oella obviously has a very strong A1. This one books up to 70%. So it's attack one enemy. It's not a very good A1, but it's something. Uh, she has a AOE. Sorry, she has a single target steal, and then she has a chance to place some CC on the whole wave, which is actually pretty good. I've seen this used to some good effect in arena actually. And then her key move is like a turn meter boost plus a turn meter fill plus a speed boost. So similar to High Katoon, Lysandra type turn meter boost. And then she has this really special passive that places heal reduction. So I've seen this used in a couple places. I've seen this used in like Iron Twins. I've seen this used in Nether Spider. So it's kind of interesting. It might be useful in the future, to be honest. And her kit is generally useful. And aura, good aura. But she's basically like a beefed up High Katoon that has some CC. But I think her kit is generally useful, and you can fit her in a lot of different teams, and she's just good. That's why she makes it on the good tier. So moving on, we had a champion here that when released was actually very bad. So we have Mother Cybele was released and was actually very bad. Everyone was just like saying skip her, do all this stuff. But honestly, like I think she's really strong. Her AoE speed down is really, really good for Hydra. She has defensive team buffs, revive on death, increase defense, and she has this weird like kind of like you have to micromanage this, but it's actually not bad. And her passive gives an extra chance to come back into the fight, right? So with the big heals and stuff, good speed. One of the best speed auras, all battle auras. Good base stats, good base speed, incredible base speed. She's good for faction wars. Good for Hydra, good for general dungeons, good support. Takes a lot of books, so that hurts her a little bit here. Next champion we have is Herndog. So Herndig, yes, he's a nuker, but he's also a debuffer. He brings very strong debuffs. His main debuff actually is this full turn meter drop on a 4-turn cooldown. Hits super hard as a single target. Very good against Dark Fae. And like he's just a incredible like damage dealer for waves. He has his A1 allows him to get an extra turn, which allows him to AoE, and he's just a machine. So it's very, very strong. He has AoE decrease, defense decrease, accuracy, which is nice. It's against some bosses, some waves. So he's and he hits hard. And he has lots and lots of utility. I think he's the only champion here that can farm Nightmare campaign in a reasonable time. I know Sir Nick can do it, but it takes him forever. So he can do it in a reasonable time. Obviously he's gonna be huge in like arena, low end arena. He's just gonna nuke everybody. So yeah, very, very strong. And he has an AoE HP burn, which is kind of is it AoE HP burn? I just want to check. No, single target HP burn. No, which is kind of cool. It just brings a lot. So our next guy we have is Yoshi. Yoshi, where are you? Yoshi. He's kind of here just because he's like kind of special. He has a speed aura, which is good. He has this very special move right here. Increase attack, increase accuracy. It's a buff, team buff. So you don't see this very often. I think he might be like one of the few 1 or 2 champions that have this. And it enables certain comps in arena. It's obviously going to be good in any kind of dungeon crawling team where you don't have arbiter for the increased attack. Increased accuracy obviously helps any kind of like early game, early mid game. reach those stat thresholds to clear certain content like our Doom Tower and stuff. He has some CC in his kit. He has A1 stun. And he has this pretty cool like turn meter fill when they receive a buff. So you really see him in arena. He's good in really see him in arena, but he's actually really good everywhere. Yeah, not clan boss of course, but against wave content, he's actually really good. So definitely take a look at this guy if you guys haven't. So moving on, we have an Orc, Iron Brago. So Iron Brago was one of the first fusions that I actually ended up getting, he's actually really special because he has this increased defense, 3-turn cooldown, which for 3 turns duration, which is very special. Most of these moves are 2-turn duration, but 3-turn duration really helps against clan boss. It allows enough overlap for you to make certain comps work, whereas a 2-turn cooldown would not, or require like some extra support. He has an AOE provoke, which helps, and then it also places in a decreased attack, which is really good in just general wave content. His passive is really strong, gives your team a bit more survivability. It's going to be an extra 4, 5, 600 defense for your whole team. And he hits like a truck. He hits hard. He hits very hard. He hits very, very hard. Yeah. He's mainly a clan boss guy, but he's so good in clan boss, and he helps so many teams. It's just insane. And he's a damage dealer himself, so he's just a really, really good, strong champion for early game, mid game. He falls off in the late game, of course. He's not super good in Hydra because for whatever reason, he doesn't bring enough, I guess, in Hydra. Even though defense up and additional defense is actually pretty good for Hydra since they don't have defense down themselves. But I mean, wave content and clan boss he's very strong. Moving on, Sacred Order. Sacred Order, where are you? Bivald, this guy. Slept on this guy for a while. I mean, the thing with this guy is that his kit is also very boring. Like, it's like, yeah, it's good, but it's freaking boring. Like, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, Miscreate Monster, right? Like, a legendary Miscreate Monster, maybe not even as good. But he has an A1 Provoke that basically can go, like, cannot be... It can't be weak, it can't weak hit. It can't weak hit, so it's very good. He has a weak heal on it. It is a 50% chance to provoke. Similar to Seeker, but Seeker hits twice. So not the most reliable, but it's 50% chance. He has 100% provoke with the leech on an AoE. Again, can't weak hit, so very good. Landing. Good for waves. He has leech, good for waves. Good, even playable for, I guess, clan boss with leech, but obviously not super good. His value shot up against Hydra. Definitely play him in Hydra. He's one of the best, like, neutral... he's one of the best, like, provokers that can bring more than just provoke. So definitely consider using him. And then he has a shield based on his damage, similar to Miscreant Monster. The problem is he doesn't hit very hard, so his shield's not going to be big. And then he has a heal. So it's a small heal, it's a small shield, but still not bad. And then his passive, it reduces damage against provoked champions. So, it keeps him alive, he keeps your team alive, and he provokes. And places leech. So he's just a good supporting champion. Good base stats. Very good. Very good. And to me, from my experience, very good in all stages of the game. Moving on, so we got Mr. Gaius. Gaius the Gleethal. There he is. Mr. Gaius. So one of the few viable bomb champions. That's kind of why he's here. He's not going to be super good in like just general progression through dungeons and stuff, but like in arena, he's one of the few viable bomb champions. And that says a lot because bomb's just not very good. He hits hard, he has good base attack. He doesn't need like full crit rate or anything like that, just straight up attack. He needs accuracy to land the bombs. He has an interesting mechanic where if he's hit, he places bombs, and when he dies, the bombs detonate. So it's kind of like a fail-safe, but the strength of his kit, and he has AoE, he has a sleep too. So he has a 2-turn detonation, but the sleep basically makes it a 1-turn. So it's pretty interesting kit. It works very well together, and he's one of the best bomb champions around. And he was a fusion, so I think he deserves his spot here. Even though he's mainly just a damage dealer, that's mainly good in just arena. But I think just the strength of his unique kit makes him worthy of his spot here. Moving to the next champion, we have Tatura. Tatura Rhymehide. This champion has a A1 decreased accuracy 100%. Very good against certain bosses, namely Bommel. He's a Bommel champion. Strong affinity against Bommel, and he places the decreased accuracy, so now his bombs can be resisted. He has 3-turn block debuffs with increased defense. Very good versus clan boss. Very good general content, but obviously 3-turn cooldown with the block debuffs. Very strong in clan boss. So this champion will take you from brutal to nightmare to ultra nightmare, no problem. Not no problem, but you need he's an option. He definitely opens up some teams. Like basically this is like Sepulchre Sentinel's move. Sepulchre Sentinel has a 4-turn cooldown and he has a 3-turn cooldown. So I mean, like, that's how good this move is. And he has an AoE slam that places a shield based on the damage inflicted. So similar to like Miscreate Monster type move or Bivold. The thing with Tatura is that he actually hits kind of hard. So Tatura can hit hard on this. So you can build him for damage. But what I found is that people kind of use this passive. So they kind of build them. They kind of build them to like CC people in arena. Like I've seen, like it can be useful against waves when the freeze goes off, but it's kind of like a low value passive. But his strength comes from like his kit. His kit is just good. So good A1, very impactful, strong A2. Hard-hitting AoE nuke that provides more survivability. Good base stats, good base defense, good base HP for hits. So it's a very, very strong champion overall. Alright, and our last champion from this category is... where is he? Walking Tomb Drang. Walking Tomb Drang. So the big thing about this guy is that he provides AoE HP burn without the need for accuracy. So that's probably the big one, right? So he places HP burn, can't be resisted. He doesn't need accuracy. So this really helps early mid-game players, and he's playable everywhere. HP burn is huge because it helps you clear Spider. Helps you deal some damage on Clan Boss. You're going to deal some damage on Hydra. So he's really, really strong. He can probably go into the S tier, the top tier for fusions anyways. Very, very strong. A1, he activates the HP burn. It's a little bit extra damage. Nothing too crazy. He's viable in he's a viable damage dealer for Sand Devil as well. With a combination with a Neri for levels 24 and 25. Yeah, just great champion. Simple, you just build him with high HP. He has high HP to start, but yeah, he doesn't require accuracy, and the HP burn is just good everywhere. So very, very strong champion. Alright, so that's it. We're going to the best of the best. Thanks for sticking around so far. It's been a really, really long video, but we knew that coming in. So this is really hard, but I feel like I got it right. So I'm going to try to justify and argue my choices at this point. Tormin. So he is the top 7th one, Tormin. Good everywhere. Good base defense. Good base HP. Good in arena. Has a very interesting kit. You can build him for damage. He hits hard. You can build him just for support. Mainly because of his strength in CCing. You can basically play him everywhere except against Clan Boss and Hydra. So he's very good against Doom Tower, very good against Arena, very good against all dungeons. So he's going to help you early, mid game, late game. He just kills his faction as well. But he's going to fall off in the end game, right? Where you start tackling Hydra, Sand Devil, Iron Twins, and, high-end arena, Platinum Arena or whatever. He's definitely fallen off in Platinum Arena or high-end arena because of Stone Skin since Hydra came. It's because Stone Skin just cancels them out. But he was a meta changer when he came. So, but even without that, he's still a general purpose like stud. He's really, really good. So our next champion on this list is the Rat King. The Rat King himself. Where is he? He's a Gin. There he is. Alright. So he places bombs that do super damage, which is awesome. He places bombs that do super damage against bosses. So he's a friggin' boss killer. He has attack down. And when the bombs go off, he places unremovable poisons. So he's an insane damage dealer for any kind of prolonged fight. He's an insane damage dealer for any prolonged fight. And because they're unremovable, it's good and bad. Because the poisons are unremovable, they're good and bad because they might block your important debuffs, but it guarantees damage. So we've seen some insane stuff he's done against Bommel, one of the hardest boss in Doom Tower. He can do insane damage against Clan Boss. He can do insane damage against Hydra. He can deal damage very well to Sand Devil. All endgame content he can do. He can solo dungeons by himself. Not the fastest, but he can solo dungeons by himself. Ice Golem, Dragon. He's insane champion. Insane champion. And he's an insane damage dealer for Faction Wars. So he's good everywhere. And you don't need to build him very well. He just needs accuracy and speed. That's it. He doesn't need 100% crit rate. He doesn't need insane gear. Obviously, the solo stuff, he needs regen and mortal. But he doesn't need any specific stats. So very, very strong champion. I mean, it's very hard to put him 6th, but I think the top 5 are even better. So number 5, we have Mr. Stud Muffin himself, Mr. Rotos. So Rotos makes it in the top 5 mainly because of how strong he is and for how long he's been on top of the arena, especially high-end arena. This guy is incredibly strong. And I'm looking at this as a generalist. Rotos as a generalist is actually very strong too. You put him in if you get him as a first legendary from your first ancient shard, you throw the lifesteal gear on him, he can wreck house. He can do stuff in dungeons. He's a boss killer. He can you know what I mean? Like he can solo bosses by himself. So we shouldn't forget that Rotos actually is a very good general champion, not just for arena. And I've seen him in clan boss videos where he's actually done like a ton of damage versus clan boss too. And obviously arena is insane. He's just not, and he can solo Sand Devil like up to a certain level. So he's just not good in Hydra content. But he's actually very good everywhere, very playable everywhere. But obviously he shines the most in arena, and he's still probably hands down like top 3 damage dealer or preferred damage dealer in arena, somewhere around there. Yeah, even by himself without Zifi, I think he's still very, very strong. So top 5. You could argue maybe the Rat is better than Rotos for a generalist. But maybe I have certain bias towards Rotos because Rotos, when I pulled Rotos, he was one of the most fun, game-changing champions ever. He was just so fun. Next champion, another game changer for sure, Brogni. He was pumped. He was pumped up for his fusion. Everyone knew he was going to be a game changer. Just how much of a game changer he was, no one knew because his passive was kind of messed up. His passive, it works in a way that no one predicted. It deals extra damage. It reflects the damage is really crazy. And his extension on his own shield is just insane. It has led to these insane shield comps that have broken the clan boss. He's insane support, 3-turn cooldown on his block debuffs. He's an attack up with it too, and he brings like a big shield. A 1 HP burn. It's good, it's fine. And he brings the reflect damage on his shield. So you can play him in arena, big shield set, uh, throw that team against a nuking team, and then they just nuke themselves to death. You can play him in Hydra to protect your team. You play him in Clan Boss, he hits super hard, protects your team, and the perfect 3-turn cooldown block debuff. Lots of killable teams use him for main damage, and he's a crazy damage dealer. General progression, he's just really good everywhere. You don't need to build him with any specific stats. He can hit hard, so you can build him with nuking stats if you want. You can build him as a debuffer to, decrease durations or line HP burns or remove buffs. He has everything. He has everything. Really, really strong champion. And you know what? He's only 4th on this list. So there's 3 champions that are probably better than him. The main reason why he's 4th is just because the Infinity comp doesn't really matter to 99.9% of people. And although he deals a lot of damage, you can find other damage dealers to replace him. So the 3rd champion on this list of all fusions, I put Mighty Uko. Mighty Uko AoE decreased attack, very strong against all wave content, even viable for Clan Boss, decreased attack, and very strong against Hydra. He has the strip. He has a strip along with the block buff, and then decrease accuracy. So it's a lot going on in one skill. A strip is not super common for an ability, and then you have the block buffs, which is also not super common, but very, very strong. Very strong for Hydra. This champion was built for Hydra, but it's actually really strong for just general content. And then you have the full team revive with a bit of protection when they come back. Or you just use it for increased speed. Speed in all battles. Insane. And then obviously his passive, very good for arena. It's, Uko is better than Brogni in arena. He's better than Brogni in Hydra. Not as good in Clan Boss. And probably better in just general wave content, just because he can revive, as well as strip. Strip, revive, block. He doesn't offer as much protection, but the revive kind of makes it up. And the attack down, AoE attack down. Great base stats, great base speed. He's good everywhere. It's going to be debatable whether he's going to be better or not, but I personally feel like he's just such an insane champion. And like I pumped him so hard, like to make sure everyone got him. Great champion. Our 2nd champion. This was hard, but I feel that I made the right choice. So Hellcat, I put at number 2. So the thing with Hellcat is that he opened up the unkillable teams to a lot of people. He opened up the unkillable teams to a lot of people. He has like a Valk type buff shield here. So the thing that makes this better than like Rosh Guard for Clan Boss teams is that this shield can protect your stun target from dying. So you don't need like an unkillable stun target that Rosh Guard needs, for example. And he deals a lot of damage, and he has a weekend. He's just really, really strong champion. He's good in all waves. Just because he has this big shield, protects your team. He has this block damage, protects your team. He's good against bosses. He can cheese bosses. He's good for Iron Twins. He's not great for Hydra. He never gets used in Hydra, but he's part of teams for Iron Twins, Clan Boss. And the fact is he can bring like an account from like a struggling Nightmare account into Ultra Nightmare 1-2 key. So that was the strength of this guy. But in the late game he fell off. He's not good in arena. You can use him in early arena where he can block buff and do all that stuff, but he's not good in arena. He's not good in Hydra. So some of the main end game stuff, he's not really good. And is he like preferred end game Clan Boss option? Not really, because you can just have a Demitha, right? You can just use Demitha. You still use double man eaters. So it's like he was an option, and he was a very accessible option for mid-game accounts to become late-game accounts and get to Ultra Nightmare. So that's kind of what the strength of his. That's why he's rated so high, like by a lot of people. Of course, he has a very good kit, and it's very good in all wave-based content. But I feel like his drop-off in the late game leaves him off the top spot. And my top pick is Python. I think I made the clear. It's very clear to me that this is the best generalist fusion ever in this game. It's the most recent completed fusion, and I pumped this guy so hard to make sure everyone got him. But he's the best generalist ever. The full team cleanse is not something that comes very often. Full team cleanse, replacing it with a block debuff and a heal. It's a full team survivability skill. And then you have a full team heal with the strengthen. And then you have a heal A1, which actually heals for quite a lot. Because it's based on Python's max HP, and he has good HP to build off of. And his passive is so good at just protecting your whole team. So the thing is, this guy plays good all dungeons. He's a hard carry in all dungeons. You basically just put this with 4 plugs, and he'll carry you through the dungeon, whatever level, early mid game. He'll carry you in clan boss. He has a 3-turn block debuff or cleanse, so you can play this guy in clan boss to make your team work against all affinities. You can play him in Hydra. He's incredible in Hydra. Team support, heals, damage reduction, team revive. Perfect. Hydra. He probably can play in Iron Twins. I haven't seen him play in Iron Twins, but he can probably play in Iron Twins in like certain teams. The cleanse is not gonna be super relevant, but his damage reduction will help, and his healing will help. Revives will help, of course. And he's actually insane in the arena. In the arena, it doesn't matter, mid, late, end game, platinum level. He is played. He is good. He's basically a Duchess, just not as good, in my opinion. Because even though he has a unique cleanse ability, which still only 10 champions have on a 3-turn cooldown, he's a reactive champion, whereas Duchess is proactive. You don't need a setup for her. And yeah, he's a reactive champion. He requires you to do something so that he get maximum benefit from his cleanse. So whereas Duchess can buff and then be on the attack. So, and also Duchess enables like seer comps and all that stuff. So she's like slightly better, similar base stats, but you're basically getting like a Duchess light. And Duchess is the best. She is probably the best non-void legendary in the game, and she's been that way for a long time. So if you were to put this guy there, is this guy better than Kymar? Maybe not. Maybe the third. He might be the third best non-void legendary in the game. That's pretty damn good for a fusion. And I mean, I would easily argue that this guy is the best fusion of all time as a generalist. Unless you're looking for something specific, this guy is the guy you pick out of the basket that's going to do everything for you. And to a very strong degree, he's going to do it very well. And he's going to be with you until the end of the game. So definitely investing in this guy if you got him. I hope you guys got him. It was a tough fusion. Plarium definitely turned the screws on us. But I wanted to end it off here. Just to basically showcase how good this guy was and how lucky we were to have this guy as our last fusion. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's super long. I'm tired. I'm even tired just talking. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, you guys disagree, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. And yeah, I'll try to be more consistent with the content, I guess. I missed a couple of days. But that's okay. This video obviously makes up for it. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.